We're really excited about this presentation from Susan. Before we get started, I want to acknowledge that the qathet Museum and Archives is located on the traditional territories of the Tla'amin Nation. And the museum is committed to collaborating with all Indigenous peoples in this province, and especially the Tla'amin Nation. We acknowledge the harms of the past, are committed to improving relationships in the spirit of reconciliation, and we extend our appreciation for the opportunity to live in this territory. And I'll give a little introduction to Susan MacKay, our speaker. Susan joins us from the Wild Ocean Whale Society, otherwise known as WOWS. It's an organization that she founded in 2013 and is the director of as well. Prior to funding WOWS, Susan and her late husband Grant spent time traveling the waters between Georgia Strait and Alaska, so I'm excited to hear about that, those trips, if they come up. And they captured sounds and images of the coast and its wildlife, and that's where her passion for whales and dolphins began. This led her to establishing Whales and Dolphins BC, which was a website established in 2010. And from there, she continued to document and record wildlife she saw. And this was a way to engage and educate the public by sharing her love of these amazing wild animals. And I'm sure everyone here has love and interest in these animals as well. So this further evolved into a collaborative sightings network with whale watching boats, researchers, and the public all contributing to recording sightings and instances of animals in distress as well. The WOW's slogan is respect, observe, preserve. That's what they do, and that's what they encourage us all to do. And so far, they've logged approximately 30,000 cetacean sightings, and through their website you can report sightings or animals who are entangled. I'm sure Susan is going to get into all of this and more, so I'm going to pass the floor in a moment. But again, we just wanted to extend our gratitude for you coming out today and bringing some really neat things to share with us.
Thanks very much. Yeah, the number of sightings that we have in our system is closer to 40,000 now. The website's not updated often enough because we don't have enough people and volunteers that we work with to keep everything really updated, other than our sightings network. Right, where am I? What we do is when we gather all this information, we actually catalog where these animals are and we map them. Every sightings report that we publish is published with maps available for that particular report, so you can always see where these animals are. When we have a larger, like, you can filter the maps online as well, so if you want to see, for example, the whole month or a specific month or a specific area, we have the various filters available online. So here you can see we've got a number of, we also break them down by the species, and on our regular maps, for example, right here you can see that there's a red circle around it. That red circle indicates that there is an actual image or photograph taken of that particular sightings as well, and it's linked together. We always publish a number of photos with our sightings reports, and the reports are published on a regular basis. Click, please. Some of the other things that we do, I'm not certain if you're all aware of the binoculars and interpretive signage that we have in different areas. This is one at Shelter Point. We also run a webcam that is live feed 24/7, aimed at the water and is movable. It's a pan, tilt, zoom type. And it is up and operational through our YouTube website. So the three other Powell River binoculars are available at the viewpoint, Westview Viewpoint. There's also 2 interpretive signs there. There's the Townside Viewpoint has one, and then also at Spirit Square, right at the end of the wharf where the ferry comes in, which unfortunately was seriously vandalized. So, click please. Okay, these are the interpretive signs that we have, so that while you're there and able to look and see what there is, you have the opportunity to determine what animals, what species you have out there. We also have our brochures, which has similar information and a little bit of other information. Yeah, feel free to please. And I'm sorry, my throat's going because I've got allergies and it's been driving me crazy. So, yeah, please go. The other thing that we do is we raise public awareness about whale entanglements. You may have seen some of these posters, maybe not. We're overdue for getting them back out at the various marinas, and some have stayed, some have been taken down, weather worn, what have you. We do have some waterproof ones that go outside. This is just a paper one. We deal with entanglements all the time. The entanglements that get reported, they all have to be reported through into Department of Fisheries and Oceans, but at the same token, we also catalog them. We have eyes and ears, people watching them, being able to sit with them. There's one, this particular humpback was actually entangled in a number of prawn deer off of Harwood Island. And I'm afraid I don't know how you pronounce it now in the native language. So, okay, play please. Some of the other things we do, you might recognize, that's the boat ramp off of, in the North Harbor. This seal pup just kept coming up on the ramp, and literally what we do is we gather endangered animals. And with that particular one, because it had actually been weaned and was feeding on its own, Department of Fisheries wouldn't allow us to pick it up and get it down to rehab because it had already actually been through rehab. So literally all we could do was stand there and prevent boaters from launching their boats and avoid getting it run over. So when we do collect seals and seal pups that are either injured or emaciated and they get flown down, Pacific Coastal does a fantastic job for us. They fly them down to Vancouver for us, where they go into the proper rehab by through the aquarium. When we pick seals up, we never put blankets in the carriers. The blankets can be hazardous to them. When they're young, they may suckle on it and they may choke. They also tend to get entangled in it as they move around. Click. Thank you. Of course, we have a number of sea lions. They tend to get box straps and are the worst. They wind up around the necks of animals. As they grow, they can't get out of them. They wind up literally cutting in and being able to disentangle them. These large animals are difficult to handle, and again, there's very specific treatment that has to happen. The aquarium has one person who is the only one right now that's able to actually give them some anesthetic enough to be able to disentangle them. This heron, though, you can see, he's got actually the can holders all together, all wrapped around his neck. So we always say, break every loop, cut the loop, definitely. Good.
And can I ask,
yes.
What are box straps?
Okay, the box straps tend to have fiberglass in them. They're plastic,
okay.
but they have fiberglass so that they don't tear easily. And that also means that they won't tear going around an animal's neck. And as the animal grows, of course, it just gets more and more embedded. Some of the other things, that humpback whale over there, that is a humpback, by the way, with the line on it, was entangled. I sat with it for 3 hours until the disentanglement team could fly in. Plane touched down, the humpback dove, and we went looking for it after that for another 3 hours. Other than that, it had stayed put beautifully, ready to get disentangled and get the help. The disentanglement team flies around and goes into different areas as needed, and only a few people are allowed to do the disentanglement. They're the only ones authorized, and that's all through Department of Fisheries and Oceans. Many of you may not be aware that we had 17 dolphins chased into a fishing weir, fish trap area off of Slyaman or Plowman a number of years ago. The orca were chasing them, and then as the tide went out pretty quickly. They had to be helped to get back into the deeper water. So, yeah, go ahead. Now, when it comes down to food, I mean, the reason the orca chased the dolphins is because that is part of some of the orca's food. This particular orca is chowing down on a harbor porpoise, which unfortunately, of course, wasn't going to make it. It's kind of a snack. The transient bigs are the main orca that we see in this area. Now, they are the meat eaters, so they will eat seals, sea lions, other cetaceans such as porpoise and dolphins, and even whales. So, yeah, go ahead.
What's their travel route? Like, how big is their range?
Okay, there's actually 10, maybe up to 11 now, categories of orca in the world. So when we talk about the southern residents, the endangered orca, there's only 73 of them right now, and they are considered southern resident because they tend to stay in the lower part of the strait. But they do go all the way down to California. So that is sort of their range. Their gene pool is finite, and this is where the situation is with them, that even if they do manage to have offspring, they are inbred. And we haven't seen them mixing up the gene pool, whereas the other whales, the other orca do. Mm-hmm. The northern residents, of which there's over 300, tend to be in, the Powell River seems to be sort of the middle here, tend to be from here up, and mostly up, like around the Broughtons, and then they go all the way up to Alaska. They come down here. We've had some even born down here. And then the transient bigs, that is, holy smokes, that's well over 350, lots and lots of them. And of those, we're also getting some that are coming up from California. So we're getting Californian transients coming up. They were called transients originally because they were thought to just actually spend all their time traveling. They don't. We have our local, what I like to call our resident transients, that tend to be around this area all the time. And then we have officially known as offshore orca, ones that tend to stay well offshore, like on the west coast of Vancouver Island and out from there. Some of the ones, the transients from California, may be considered offshore orca, but in fact there is a category of orca that are specifically offshore orca. So what do we tend to see here? We are getting more and more California ones coming up, which is interesting. So we have the transient bigs primarily. They are the ones that you will see most often out front here. We get the southern residents, usually a couple of times a year. They come up They go up as far as Cape Mudge or close to Campbell River. Sometimes they circumnavigate Texada, sometimes they don't. Part of that will depend on the food source, and they do follow food. All these animals follow their food. So then the northern residents, we tend to see them occasionally. We had northern residents down here not that long ago, but they tend to sort of go as far as Nodali's Channel because, again, their food source goes up the river there. Okay? So, yeah, please. And anybody wanting, has any questions, please just jump in. Ask. So, all right, you know, because I went ahead here, but, okay, so some of our local marine mammals, I mean, it's, the transient bigs really, we just kind of went through that all, but I didn't mention on here about the Californians, but it is rather interesting that they are coming up this far. And the transient bigs, they do go down, they will go down as far as Oregon, and I don't think I'm not aware of the ones that we normally have up here going down to California, but it wouldn't surprise me. And you know, as I said, the southern residents I know do, and the northern residents, I've never heard of them going below Washington State. So, yeah, go ahead. Humpback whales. Major resurgence of humpback whales since all the whaling has stopped. Our inside waters here, you see them more and more. Part of the whale situation, the food. We had a major die-off of krill 2 years in a row, and in Malaspina Strait. So in our inside waters between Texada and us. And with that die-off of krill, which happens to be their main focus for food, it became difficult for them to feed. So they went to where the food is, which happens to be on the other side of Texada, between Texada, Hornby, and Vancouver Island. Right, currently we've got about 20 or more in the area. So, but they are sort of Hornby, Denman, and up to Campbell River. Humpbacks are baleen whales. This is baleen. It's made of keratin, which is like your fingernails, and it grows similar to the way fingernails grow, so you can see the various layers. This happens to be from a gray whale, but it's same idea, same principle for all of them. And it becomes very soft in the water, like your fingernails do when you have them soaking for a long time. They are, the purpose of the baleen is so that they can filter their food. They take a huge amount of water with food in it, or fish. Humpbacks eat various small fish and krill. So they will take a whole mouthful of water and food, and then through the baleen, they use it as a method to sift it out, push the water out, and keep the food. And every once in a while, you get greedy birds that get in there. And I have seen humpbacks actually sit there with their mouths open to let the birds get out, to release the birds. It's quite impressive actually when they do that, because they're losing their food, some of it. So with the humpbacks, we've been getting over 50 humpbacks in the area every year now, and again, keep waiting for them to be on this side again, you know, but they are actually coming in. Some of them overwinter now. They go up into the various inlets depending on where the food source is, and they don't all tend to travel down to Mexico or Hawaii. Their main purpose for doing that is mating, and we have seen mating rituals here. They also do a fair bit of singing here, which is something that they never used to do. So it's very cool. Anyway.
And does your organization work with hydrophones at all? And here's some
We
of this
have
information.
hydrophones. There's so much boat noise that you have to be able to filter it out. But on our Whales and Dolphins BC website, there's a couple of videos on learning about the species. It's, you know, it's geared to kids, but the fact that humpbacks sing, the recording in there of the humpbacks singing was taken from out here by me, and it's short because it needed to be for that particular training video. But it gives you an idea. We've been wanting to get it uploaded, but there's so much cleanup of ferry noise, other boats. It's, you know, you don't want to lose the whole thing by chopping it up, because it's pretty amazing. The humpbacks, when they sing, their song is global. They have the same song with minor variations globally. Now, how on earth they get the word out, I don't know, but you can hear them a long ways away. And some of it is so, they can get incredibly high pitched and very low pitched. So low that we can't make it out unless you modify your sound. The recording will allow me to go down to that deeper level and actually be able to bring that up, so which is pretty cool. We get reports of baby killer whales, Dall's porpoise. They look like it, you know, from a distance, but they're really short and chunky. They're very small. They are considered speed demons because when you see them quite often, they'll come zipping in like crazy and then zip away. And they tend to do zigzag patterns as they search for food. Sometimes they bow ride on boats or wake ride, and it's pretty kind of neat, you know, with the zigzagging. Pacific white-sided dolphins, acrobats, major acrobats. They will leap up to 25 feet in the air and doing somersaults. They tend to herd their food. They will actually get together, they work together. You'll see one or two of them reach and just keep slapping the water, like they do belly flops. And what they're doing is they're actually chasing the food in a certain direction. And you'll find them kind of grouped around. They're super intelligent. Their brain just goes a million miles an hour, I think. And their vocals are incredibly high-pitched. They sound like a million seagulls squawking all at the same time. They do the clicking, and the clicking is in fact the audio for echolocation. So they send this click out, and it bounces back, and they pick it up in their forehead, basically, in their melon. And that gives them a description of what's out there. Humpback echolocation is a very, very deep boom, which has to penetrate far enough away because they're such big animals. They're generally around 40 feet for an adult. So I don't know what that is metric. I'm terrible for metrics, so okay. The Dall's porpoise and white-sided dolphins tend to eat smaller fish. White-sided dolphins will in fact eat salmon as well, but they will go after salmon smolts. They can herd their food. What they do is they herd a group or a
School?
I'm sorry? School, thank you. Yes, maybe I need to go to school. Of fish towards land or some other structure, so that they can actually stop, turn, and then forage through it. So feeding as they go through. Balanced everything here. And as I said, they do wind up eating some salmon. Usually they're after the smaller fish. Lots of herring around right now still, which is good. And it, again, unfortunately, is mostly over on the Vancouver Island side. And the krill, of course, is a tiny, tiny version of a prawn, right, is what they look like. And it really does suck to be krill because everything eats you. But there is so much of it in the water, it will actually turn the water red at times. And that's also where some of the salmon are getting their color from. That red color is because they are eating some of the krill or other fish that have eaten krill as well. So, go ahead. Of course, if any of you live in town site, you know of all the barking and the roaring of the lions. A stellar sea lion roars. It roars like a lion. The ones that you hear barking like dogs are California sea lions. So we have usually around 500 California sea lions in the winter months that are hanging out on the breakwater by the mill pond. The stellar sea lions tend to come and go through the area as well, and they are all over the place. During the hake run, which is just about coming up by Stewart Island and Dent Islands, there's always an eagle show. The eagles are there picking off hake. The smaller animals are there picking off hake, and the sea lions are definitely there picking off hake. They also tend to interfere quite substantially with the herring fishery over in Baines Sound by constantly going after the herring. That they get into the nets, and then of course the nets get destroyed. So I'm just very happy we haven't had the herring fishery on this side. So, and of course the cute little harbor seals. I mean, harbor seals they're just cute looking. They do wind up being just a snack for the orca, but and for the orca, when they are going after the sea lions, they have to gang up together to do it because they're just too big. The stellar sea lion is bigger than the California. California sea lion will weigh in around 800 pounds. Stellar sea lion can be 2 tons. So we're talking over like 2,000 pounds, right? So there is an enormous size difference, and they will kind of push everybody off the area. So okay, click please. Thank you. Then we have the differences here. The difference between a river otter and a sea otter, and we are getting sea otters back in our waters. River otters tend to be where there's fresh water coming in. Sea otters tend to be considered pelagic only. In other words, they are in the ocean waters only. And they do not go on shore very often unless they're being hunted. And you'll see them up on the rocks if the orca are chasing them. So they are a keystone species. They're considered something quite vital to our area. They control urchin population, which tends to devastate the kelp beds, and that creates a problem for fish habitat, for the cleansing of our oceans through the greenery that we have growing in there. So with them coming back, this is yes, way to go. Finally, we're getting somewhere with cleaning up our oceans. River otters, you'll see them all over the docks in so many different places. They wind up hanging out on boats sometimes if people aren't careful, and they are on land a lot. they are not considered a marine mammal. So when we've had call-outs for doing any rescues of them, part of the problem is we contact the conservation because they deal with land animals. Well, they don't consider the river otter as a land animal, really. They don't consider, and the DFO doesn't consider the river otter as a marine animal, so they kind of fall through the cracks. If they would only be on land, perhaps conservation would be a little more inclined to help us out with it. Other than that, we're out there whenever we have to be or whenever we can to do any of our rescues. The sea otters are just kind of cool. They're lying on their back and going flop, 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 flop with their hind feet as they swim, and they just kind of look at you and dive down, and the sea otters tend to pick up and use tools. So if they get a clam, they'll also pick up a rock, put it on their belly, and hammer away to break into their food. So how they learned it, good question, but evolution has taught them that this is how you do it. If you have anything that's got a tough shell and you want to get at it, that's what you do. Good. Boating safety rules. There's regulations that have come down over the last while with regards to whale watching and how close you're allowed to be to the animals. There's a lot of people, they don't understand that, there is a reason for it, because you might see one, but there might be 5 others in the area. We have seen so many animals that have been injured, dorsal fins sliced, humpbacks that are slower moving wind up being run over. We've had animals killed because of it. It's also, the last thing you want to be doing also, if you're running quickly and you don't notice that there's a whale there, and running into it, you're going to be hurting yourself as well as your boat, as well as the animal. We're trying to get people to pay attention to, if you see a dorsal fin, if you see a blow, number one, slow down, figure out where you have to go to be able to avoid the animals and be able to get around. You cannot, the ideal method of any crossing of paths of these animals is so that they can see. They have eyes on either side of their head. So if you're coming up from behind, they're not going to know. They only hear the noise. They are not going to know where it's coming from. Slow down, really. Out on the water, gotta keep slow. And you have to be a distance of 400 meters or more with regards to orca. Now, a lot of people don't realize how far that is. That's a long ways away. And whale watching vessels, they have certain permission because they can identify the species of whale, of orca, for example. They are allowed to go up to 200 meters to them. Okay, so I guess part of that is also to help bolster the whale watching community and the efforts that they have. Okay. So, questions, anybody?
I was curious about how over the years your support of DFO and the disentanglement efforts has evolved, and how it started and how you support them now.
Well, the rescue and response literally started whenever anybody saw an animal that was entangled, they wanted to go and help. The procedures dealing with it, part of the reason there are very few people allowed to do this, to do the disentanglement of large animals, is because when we had too many people out there doing this. They weren't certain what they were doing. People were getting hurt and killed. Even somebody who is extremely savvy and was actually teaching some of the people on the East Coast. He had just finished disentangling his 15th right whale of the year, and the right whale zigged, got him in the head with his tail fluke. That was it. He was gone. And so all it takes is one brief moment of inattention that can just totally destroy a person's life. So disentangling, although it's been, there's a lot going on all the time. The photo of this humpback that was entangled off of Harwood, the underwater photo is to determine where these lines actually are. You can't just randomly cut a line, because you could still leave the whale totally entangled if you don't know what you're doing. So you have to be able to trace the line, figure it out, and get a plan of attack. So this is why they want the people that are specifically trained. And currently it's Paul Cottrell, who is the head of DFO, in the marine mammal part, and he is the only one that's actually trained and allowed to disentangle.
On the entire West Coast, one person.
Yeah.
I'm sure that the support from your group, even in just keeping eyes on the whale, must be so huge if there's just one person who can
Yeah,
do this.
and literally, there's more than just us keeping eyes on the whale. But literally, yeah, Paul was on the west coast of Vancouver Island when the word came in about that humpback that I sat with for 3 hours waiting for him to come in. So he's hopping onto a plane to fly over to, across Vancouver Island and come over with a team to disentangle the whale. If they wouldn't have even had a starting point of where to look, had I not been available to be there. And when it comes down to any rescue and response, it's an immediate thing. Everything else stops. We get a call, time to go. Sorry, I was in a meeting and at one point and I said, look, I'm really sorry, but I have to go. I mean, there's an animal in distress, needs to be picked up, got to get it onto the plane, or something's happening here. When it comes down to determining the need is another one. And we field calls all the time. Anyone that's interested in they see an animal, they think maybe it's in distress. We had one, and they said, oh no, the animal's just barely able to get its head above water, and it was just outside the harbor. So I grabbed a kennel, which would not have been big enough for it, but based on what the people had told me, it should have been. And hopped out there, took a look, woke the sea lion up. The sea lion was having a really good nap. And so then the sea lion came around and went bark, 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 it's California. So, we do get calls like that. I have also walked the trails, like the sea walk, because somebody said that there was somehow a seal had actually gotten up onto the sea walk. I'm back and forth. In the meantime, I'm on the phone, getting authorizations that have to be done, getting everything coordinated. It's the nature of the beast. We also log everything, and everything is recorded. One of our newest things that we are working on, actually, which I'll tell you after this. Any other whale questions? Nobody? Nothing? I'm happy to keep talking, but I don't know what.
Why? Why are they so smart? Why are whales and dolphins? Why are they really intelligent? What's the theory on that?
Why which?
Why are they smart?
it's so intelligent. The
Oh,
whales.
sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, why the whales are so intelligent? Well, they have enormous brains, for one thing. And they have evolved a lot longer than we have, really. And they have evolved from prehistoric times. There's a lot that happens through instinct, but a good example, it's learned behavior as well. Orca will frequently teach their young how to hunt, and what they will do is they'll pick on okay, this is the animal we're going to get, and you're going to learn how to do this for yourself. And then they will show the young how to do it and let the young one get involved in it. The other thing, so I mean, they are teaching each other how to do certain things. Another thing that has evolved from orca, again, you may have seen in previous shows or what have you that orca will generate a wave to wash seals off of ice floes. They do that on the rocks here too. They have actually, I mean, the first time I saw it was, I think, 4 or 5 years ago, or maybe a bit more. But they actually gang up, generate a wave, and wash some of the seals off the rocks. They can't get at them otherwise, so now who taught them that? Or was it just the fact that they figured it out? Transient bigs, when they go on the hunt, they are quiet. They have their, whatever they're going to do, they seem to organize this ahead of time. Then afterwards, they just not one peep out of them, and they will sneak up on their prey. So, is it learned behavior? They learn what works, and they teach each other about that. So, why they're so intelligent? They've been learning, and evolution has taught them a lot.
Isn't there some theory about them having come up on the land just like we did, eons ago, and then they decided to go back?
There's various theories, yeah, and I'm not a paleontologist, so
Because their flippers, well, not the flippers, but like their fins and stuff have hand skeletons in them and stuff.
that's what they've found in various things, yes. So, it's really difficult to say, but yeah, that's the theory. Oh, sorry. Anybody else? Now, something else that we're involved with, which our mandate is very clear on preserving life. And we got called in due to a feral cat situation on Texada Island. So, because of our mandate to preserve life, we jumped in to help. And we are actually working on this feral cat initiative in the meantime to get these cats spayed and neutered. We pulled 12 kittens out of the mix right off the bat, and this is very labor intensive, trapping, and then to do the actual spay neuter, our local vets they just don't have the capacity for it. Because we're looking at 30, 40 cats. So we're working in conjunction with Comox. It means going from Texada, get the cats trapped, over from Texada, over to Comox, whole day, come back on the last ferry, and then back to Texada on the last ferry. So, and then hold them for 2 days, and then release them again, and then start the process again. So, but we are making headway. We've done over 20 now, so we're getting there. But this is another initiative that actually takes a fair bit of time and effort, and thought I'd just pass that on. That it is part and parcel of our rescue and response, and I'm so happy to say that all 12 kittens that we pulled out originally are all adopted. I've got 3 of them. So, and 2 of them, a friend of mine had them, and her daughter fell in love with them and took them back to Calgary with her. So we now know, though, that there are other kittens that are have been born. We haven't found them yet. We're looking for them. We got the mum, and the mum is now spayed, but her milk was drying up, so obviously the kittens are out there. So I don't know if any of you go to Texada on a regular basis, but if you see a cat with an ear that is partially chewed off, it's not really chewed off, it's actually ear tipped. So that indicates that it's been spayed and neutered. And I mean, we got called in because part of the threat was of poisoning, and in fact 17 cats were poisoned.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they were dumped in, of all places, the watershed area.
Oh, good idea.
Texada. Oh yeah, really good. Very, very smart people.
Yeah, stupid on top of stupid.
Yeah, so, but in 3 different batches, and we got them all, we sent them off to be examined, and there was, even if we would know what it was, even if they would share it with us, I wouldn't be able to share it with you, as to what poison it was. So, in any case, we're hoping that this is, that has stopped, because that happened in February, and we started in October with all of this, and then April we managed to start getting them really trapped and spayed and neutered. So now, other than that, back to whales for a moment, because I forgot to mention, this is a sperm whale tooth. So it gives you an idea of how big it is, and yet only about this much shows in their mouth. They just have a lot of them. Sperm whales tend to dive pretty deep. This is, in case you ever wondered, harbor seal teeth, and they do have gnashy teeth, and you really don't want to be bitten by one. And this is just another one that I was given. It's another sperm whale tooth, but a smaller one. Other than that, if anybody has any questions or would like to know any more information, again, we've got our brochures are here, and I'm willing to answer any questions.
One last question I had. Have you done any education collaborations with Ocean Legacy, or is that something that is potential for? I know Ocean Legacy here does some
They do the
plastic
cleanup.
and rope cleanup.
Yep, they're doing the cleanup.
Yeah.
They've been doing that not just here, but over on Vancouver Island and further up. It's under Ocean's Initiative, and they have received mega bucks, and a lot of people are involved, and a lot of new boats have been built because of it. And they have been doing the various areas. They did a lot of savory. I know that, and then they've been doing some of the inlets up from Campbell River. So they've got their own sort of system happening, and I'd like to say that a lot of the charities and organizations work together. We keep trying to get more collaboration. We have been working on it, and actually Parks Canada has been quite involved with some of that, to get the marine educators together. And we do hold various meetings and discussion groups on sharing of information. Our information is actually all public. It's available publicly. you know, it's all there. And then if somebody needs it for specific research, there is a request form for a specific species or time frame, and being able to do this for something specific. And because the information is available directly online, it's for general interest. Please use our websites, you know, and the filters that you have available in the maps.
Could we see the map of the coast again and where you've had sightings? Is that possible?
Oh, sure.
There we go.
Yeah. I don't remember. It's probably just, you know, I wanted to do something just local. Because we do, you know, it goes farther than that. But yeah, so I mean, if you zoom in on any one of these, this 10 would break down into the individual species of whatever. So, and then you can actually zoom right in. And of course, there's a lot that goes on up Campbell River and up by Quandra and Susan Channel in that area. Yeah, I've got this particular one goes all the way down to Howe Sound, just at the entrance to Howe Sound, Gibson's.
Did you notice, I learned recently that the herring spawn has just started to, the herring have just started to come back to the area in the past few years, and have you noticed like an increase in whale sightings with an increase in herring populations?
There is a bit of an increase in herring on this side, which is finally, yeah, yay. Increase in whale population, you'd think that they would follow the herring, but it's almost like they're letting this side repopulate. There's more herring on the other side, and that's where you'll see more whales. You know, and this is the way it is at the moment, and we keep hoping that things will improve, and our water quality has definitely improved, and so our oceans are in fact, you know, coming along. So bottom line, no, not really.
Okay.
Not really specifically to do with the herring.
Yeah.
And then the herring don't stay around because if they don't have the krill to feed on, then, you know, they feed on krill and various types of plankton and sometimes smaller fish as well. But really, yeah, it's not here, then they move on. We do monitor sea otters as well. Sea otters are considered the smallest marine mammal species. And we do get species uncertain. So, you know, it was a whale, but can't tell whether it's an orca or porpoise or whatever. So, yeah. We do get gray whales occasionally on this side as well, not very often. Gray whales tend to feed by scooping up a bunch of muck and water, and they get their little crustaceans and things in there. And again, they filter it through using the baleen. Gray whales tend to be either right-handed or left-handed. They have a preference, which I find kind of different. So they always wear one side down versus the other. Anything? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And again, feel free to pick up a brochure there.